Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Offshore Diaries. Again, my name is Paulo Santos. We have a kind of a unique story today. We don't have a Philippine virtual assistant as a guest. We're not bringing on a service provider. We're not bringing on a client. We are bringing on, I guess I'll call this, for lack of a better term, a offshoring, outsourcing virgin in the Philippines, right? But she's got a hell of a background, a hell of a story. And I think it's going to be more relevant than I would have originally thought when I had this conversation. Tya Bolton is here from EBS Universal down in North Carolina. Is that right?
Yes, in Charlotte.
Awesome. So Tya and I had a connection call last weekend. I thought we hit it off, at least on my side.
Absolutely.
But our conversation really went somewhere else. And that's what got us from talking about completely other stuff. And then I said, you got to come on to this podcast. This is right up, our listeners' alley. And, before we get into exactly, what that all entails, Tya, you have a hell of a background spanning, not to age anyone, spanning decades, right?
Yes.
But beyond the decades, it's centuries of experience and all that stuff that comes in between that. And for me, I always look at education as one side of things. Nothing beats experience. Nothing beats being able to say you've done a billion things and done all that stuff. Tya, tell me a bit about what you're doing today and what EBS does.
Sure. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Paulo, and to all of your listeners. Greetings from Charlotte, North Carolina. Today, 19 years in business, we have a global award-winning agency that covers 3 areas primarily. That includes community engagement, and those areas of engagement are normally around access to affordable healthcare, affordable housing, and entrepreneurship programs. We also have a department that does event production all around the world. And then we have an overall consulting arm as well, which typically helps nonprofits and municipalities.
All right, so I got to ask, do you love what you do?
I actually do. I get to change the lives of so many people all around the world.
That's great. So prior to starting this company, what were you doing previously?
So it's an interesting segue. So I'll say I started wanting to be a psychologist. It didn't work out that way. I ended up getting punched in the back by one of my patients when I was working in a mental health institute.
That's not metaphorically.
No, literally punched in the back by a patient that was like 3 times my size back then. And my doctor said, go do something else, because it took so much therapy to just be able to stand up straight again. And so I said, okay. So I left there. I went to work for a meeting planning company. And that's where I got my start at planning events and managing the office. I was a business manager, and I got to plan meetings in other countries and locally in that state, which was Virginia and in the DC area. And then I evolved from there and decided I'm going to go to another company where I can advance my career. And in that line of business, I was a business manager overseeing a cluster of offices across the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. And my job partially was to meet with big companies like ExxonMobil to work with their employees who were being severed, so I could help walk them through their severance packages. And I was also managing teams of people across all of those offices. And guess whose position was severed? Mine.
Right. So who was the you for yourself? I
was the me for myself.
Oh no.
Who's going to counsel me? And so I had like a 5-minute catharsis, got my act together, and I said, you know what? I got to go work this out. Okay. And so I immediately said, this is the time to start my company, which is something I always wanted to do. But I never knew what I wanted that business to be, and since I left the idea of psychology. And so I was getting ready for an event with my children. I was helping them to find, or I was helping to look for a charter school for the kids. And that charter school, at the end of that open house, the executive director said, can everyone talk about their background? And I got up and I talked about my background in business management. And they became my first client. Me getting that charter school off the ground was like my biggest client, the first client. And so there started the virtual assistant, virtual business management company back in 2006.
So you were managing other people virtually that were all working virtually for your client, or you were the one working that virtually yourself?
It was a combination. So it started with just me, but the business grew so fast I had to bring other people on board pretty
All right,
quickly.
so you were a virtual assistant, except you were
Yep.
local. You were
Yes,
so how
yes,
far
not out
were
of the
you?
country.
How far were you physically from the actual client you were servicing?
We were mostly operating within the United States. So there were some who were on totally different coasts. I was on the East Coast. They would be like on the West Coast. So some of them I never met in person. And so there was still hours and hours of distance between us, but we were able to get it done and work out time zones and all of that stuff.
Okay, so just to my VA listeners here, virtual assistance is not exclusive to India or the Philippines or overseas. They have them here in the US. Different kinds of things, but same thing. Some clients you never had to meet. And what year was this?
2006.
So this is prior to all the cool tech we have today. Time tracking
Absolutely.
softwares. You must have had like a Skype or other systems back there, but certainly not the kinds of Google Meets and Zooms and all other stuff that we're able to leverage today.
That's right.
So what kinds of work were you doing as a VA for those other companies?
So we were helping a lot of solopreneur companies, and they were mostly business and executive coaches. And so we would help them with everything from their day-to-day onboarding of their new clients, building out their systems and their project management sequence, creating all of their templates. We would be their assistant. We would do their scheduling. And so we were the day-to-day face of those businesses. They would email admin at that domain or Tya at that person's domain, and they would get one of us, and they would never know that we were a separate entity.
Wow, very cool. Very cool. So as you've gone from that to grow your own business,
Yes.
you and I had a conversation that you're looking to expand your team and potentially look at outsource things. Now, from what I understand, you've been bombarded or people have reached out to you or you saw ads, probably a lot of them, for
Yes.
virtual assistants in the Philippines.
I've been getting tons of requests on LinkedIn, and I've gotten a few emails as well. So it was interesting because when I met you, I didn't know your background or that you were Filipino, but I have been trying to sift through, like, how do I get to know these people? Is it the right thing to do? How do I navigate this? And then I met you, and I was like, you are about to be my BFF.
There we go. There we go. So as a former virtual assistant,
Yeah.
right, what did you hate? What did you think was what did you hate about it? As far as like, I can't possibly do this virtually. I need to be in the office. It's so much more difficult because that, or was it all doable?
So I will say that even though we called it a virtual business, we did end up being on site with people because a lot of them were local to our area.
Okay.
So we would communicate and do a lot of stuff kind of day to day remotely, but then we would like get together and meet occasionally for those that were local to us.
Right.
And then we would like start executing on events and things like that, which of course had to be done in person. I would say there wasn't necessarily a particular task that we didn't like, but what we didn't like was the mindset of certain people because they hear the word assistant. And I've always been an advocate and an ambassador for assistance because I always managed the administrative team in my background in corporate. And people hear that word and they don't understand the level of experience and respect that should come along with that title. And so people would try to get us to do things and we were like, we don't really do that. Or they would try to like take us to some very low priced rate in the United States that wouldn't be feasible. People wouldn't be able to afford to live and we were an agency. So imagine I have to pay the virtual assistants and the virtual business managers who are on my team, and you're already trying to lowball me at a rate that I can't afford to pay them and make a profit. Right. And so it was more so about the mindset of the people that were thinking, okay, well, we can just throw anything at you and you'll take it. And I'm like, actually, we won't. So
I'm with you. It's funny when you work with solopreneurs and smaller companies, every dollar counts, every penny counts. And when you're trying to, take somebody at, no matter what the rate is, $5 an hour or $50 an hour, our job as executives is to maximize the efficiency and work done, no matter what that hourly rate is. And we push, and we try to get as much out of that and we squeeze every, hour of work we can into that time frame. Um, and it's interesting because as you've grown your business, you've acknowledged that there's a need for people. A company can't just be you forever because you'll basically drop dead trying to accomplish it all. And, quite frankly, I don't know about you, but at this point in my life, I like balance. I like work-life balance. I want to be around.
Absolutely.
I want to be happy. I want to enjoy what I'm doing outside of work. So hence comes suddenly all these ads and people reaching out to you on LinkedIn, whatever else. Why haven't you pulled the trigger yet?
You know what it is because we do a lot of events, I was trying to sift through what can someone at this stage in business help me with remotely? And then how do we manage that without it being my responsibility to manage it? So it's almost like I need a middle person to manage all the people.
Okay. So from an experience standpoint, from my experience with virtual assistants, I've ran companies with VAs in the past. I've obviously had my own team of VAs that I use for my own business. I also work very closely with agencies that are local and foreign that have teams over there. And I think there's a stigma of if it's cheap, relatively cheap compared to US rates. If it's cheap, it's not good. And same thing happens when you and I run our businesses and we have to price our services. If we try to just undercut pricing, there's usually all right, well, you're not, it's cheap. It's cheap. The word cheap by itself has a bad connotation, right? And to me, sometimes a lot of these ads and people that are pitching, especially if they're reaching out on LinkedIn or cold emailing, hey, come hire us. And they start dropping these rates that are like, you're getting $2 an hour, $3 an hour. This can't be real. This can't be possible. And quite frankly, it's really not possible. So I want to educate you as a first timer looking at the VA industry and also my guest here. So here's what happens. There are these companies that VA agencies in the Philippines or other countries hire to get leads for them. And what they do is they will start putting these ads out or these outreach campaigns that start putting out this ridiculous number of like $2, $3 an hour.
Okay.
I don't care if you're in the Philippines or not, is not a living wage. Let me just clarify that right now.
Yeah.
If you look at that, what they're doing, they go ahead and sell that lead to an agency in the Philippines. And then the agency's like, where the hell, to the client goes, where the hell did you get $2 an hour? Well, that's what the ad I responded to said, $2 an hour. Well, we start at, $8, $9, $10 an hour. And then suddenly you lose all of that thing, right? But, or the agency swallows it and say, listen, you were promised $2 an hour from something. We'll do it for $2 an hour for the first month or two, but there's just no chance in hell. There's no way we can do it. There's no reasonable way.
Yeah.
You're lucky and you're able to kind of find somebody and then they can increase the rate and then the client goes on with it. But most times the client's like, I only want $2 an hour. I'll never pay more than $2 an hour. So, just like what you said, when you try to get lowball people here in America, when you lowball in the Philippines, you're going to get what you paid for.
There you go.
No matter what you get.
Yes.
No question about it. And I am in the belief, from my own personal experience, is that sometimes you get a diamond in the rough. And I'm sure you've had really special people on your team today. You found really great people in your past. And those people out there. But they are 1 in a million.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably know from turnover in your own company how hard it is to retrain somebody else for somebody.
I know it.
Right?
I know it.
It sucks.
It's expensive. It's time consuming. Yes.
And you're talking about how you don't want to manage somebody. When somebody falls off at a high level in your company, all of that training falls back to one person. And that's right. Miss Bolton right there. The buck stops right here. Right? That's the only one. So my first advice when you're looking at a VA in the Philippines is don't trust any of the ads that are showing these ridiculously low numbers. Even if you can get that rate, you're going to get what you paid for, and it's not going to be maintainable. Yeah. Right. the VA industry in the Philippines specifically has kind of gone through this weird turmoil over the past couple of years. You had like this, people fell in love with the concept that they become a VA, work from home and everything else. So you get a bunch of people who are really, really unqualified
Oh,
to be selling their VA service. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I'm a Filipino.
yes,
I hate to
no,
say
I
it.
appreciate it.
I hate
Yes.
to bash that stuff. So my first thing, especially for a first timer, is don't hire a direct VA. You're going to get
I,
outreach. You can go to Upwork, you can go to Fiverr and hire these people that do it. There is no testing process for them. There's no screening process for
mm,
them. They can write whatever the hell they want on the resume, and none of it means anything.
yep. Okay.
Agency, go through an agency for your first round. And if
Okay.
you feel more comfortable later on, then go ahead and find your own VAs. But I would absolutely say get to an agency first for as long as you can because they work very efficiently. The good ones have very strict testing and hiring processes for their VAs,
Okay.
right? And when you talk about the kind of work you can pass off to them, because you're an events company, right? Like I need
Yes.
somebody in house. But think about that, right? When you were doing this as a VA,
That's true.
I'm sure people were asking themselves before they hired you, wait, how much can we actually do virtually? How much can this woman possibly do virtually, or her team do virtually?
Mhm.
Because back then, especially in 2006, we're talking about there wasn't a lot of this
I
virtual work
know.
going on. Like you were kind of a
There
pioneer in
was
many
not.
ways, especially in that geography. It certainly wasn't a big thing, and it's even in that industry. Definitely, that's a
Hmm.
very old school industry. You were kind of breaking through,
That's
doing some of
right.
those things, right? So you were taking that gamble very young in the industry. That hell is freaking go for it, and people will bite,
Yep.
right? Well, so let me ask you a question. How did you convince your clients back then to hire
So
you?
yeah. So what's interesting, Paulo, is that lucky for me, we are blessed that most of our clients have come by word of mouth referrals. And so they got to see us in action, but it was a lot of in-person action that they witnessed. So that we would work with a client and then that client would be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I would bring on other people and I started segmenting, okay, this person helps with operations, this person helps with marketing, this person helps with bookkeeping or whatever it might be. So they ended up having a team of people and then everyone just reported back up to me. And so when I was able to just say, listen, my background, you can look at where I've worked before in the types of projects I've managed, everyone represents an extension of me. And so the way that I sold it was I've trained these people personally. I've had extensive training in corporate. I am just doing what I've learned how to do over the past decade or what have you. So I was able to build that trust. And then because they saw me in action and I followed through with my word, then they would bring me on to other bigger opportunities. So that's really how we evolved.
Right. So it takes a level of trust
A level of trust.
and it takes a level of confidence in who you're working with.
Yeah.
And to me, there's not much different from a team in the Philippines or that team here. Now, I get you don't get to have that physical, personal, in person handshake
Mhm.
and hugs and let's work together and sit in a boardroom together and everything else. But the world's changed. I'm sure obviously COVID
For
accelerated
sure.
that work, everything else, and not just in the virtual assistant space, in all kinds of work, it's been proven to be possible to some
Yeah.
extent. Um, so I guess it's just a question of what can these VAs take off your plate, and
Yeah.
really there now as a advocate for the VA industry, my
Hmm.
first comments would be as far as what they could take off your plate would be, these are experts in their fields. Everything from bookkeeping, marketing, content creation, SEO, websites, video editing, general administrative appointment setting, cold calling, sales. I mean, I don't know many roles aside from, manufacturing widgets in person that I would say can be done virtually. Can't be done virtually, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there is a training curve. I can't say that that's just immediately off your plate. Um, and I think the best businesses, the most successful companies, and most successful solopreneurs and and small businesses that have hired VAs, I think, don't have to necessarily know everything they want the VA to do day one.
Okay.
Find a few tasks and let that grow. Similar to
Okay.
what you were saying, let them prove themselves as they grow. And then I think you're going to realize really quickly that there's not a lot of things they're going to say they can't do.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, take advantage of the time zones. Everybody wants somebody they can work with face to face. And that has a lot of benefit to work, your 9 to 5 US Eastern time hours.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
also a great benefit to say, I'm signing off at 5 p.m. here in the US. Here's all the work I need you to get done. Have it ready before I wake up tomorrow morning.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
whole other part of the equation there that, you basically have a company running 24 hours a day now. What's
Yes.
taking you 3 days to do is now taking you 1.5 days to do because you're working 24/7. You
Yeah.
being your team working 24/7 at a fraction the cost. So listen.
I like it.
I think it's great that you're exploring. I love the fact that people are reaching out to you. I hate the fact that you're getting spammed and bombarded with messages. But I think you're coming from a very different space in that you've worked virtually in the past. You've led teams that are
Yes.
virtual in the past. There is no
Yeah.
difference in the quality of work, as far as I'm concerned, between
Agreed.
that and doing it, in a different country. I do believe there is a lot more garbage out there on both sides because people can
Mhm.
falsify things and people are trying to get into this different workforce. I think we have a whole generation in the US, especially in the US, of people who find a way to work as little as possible to make as much money as possible.
That's so true.
And I don't know if it's a generational thing, but I feel like hard work has kind of scared the crap out of them, or they just want to be social media superstars or something.
A little of both. A little of
Yeah.
both.
And by
Yes.
the way, the Philippines is not exempt from it. So you do have a lot of Filipinos that are trying to get into this virtual assistant world. We're certainly not qualified. So, definitely it takes some work to get the right person. But there's
Mhm.
definitely avenues, and going through agencies or experienced people is definitely number one. So yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, I was going to ask you. So, because I'm starting to think of some responsibilities that could potentially work out virtually, right? The more that we speak. So, this is super helpful for me. So, I think about all the administrative things that happen in between being on site or traveling for an event. So, there's the scheduling of the planning sessions, there's the project management of whatever online tool is being used, Monday.com, Notion, Asana, what have you. And then there is, making sure that vendors are being reached out to and being followed up with. And then there's like a run of show that has to happen. So I'm like, what if somebody could take those things off of our plates? And I'm thinking through, like, I don't know if there's a real difference in the way the divisions in which you would source someone from the Philippines helping out. So I would think, okay, I'm looking for someone with a marketing background or an events background, or is it more general in nature?
Both. So there's definitely companies and individuals who focus on specific things, but there are
Okay.
agencies that definitely have a large breadth of those
Okay.
things. And I would also look at the idea of, okay, maybe this individual, and when you talk to a good agency, they're gonna say, okay, you get assigned, employee number one, and you're gonna be able
Gotcha.
to work with that individual, and that basically becomes your person, right?
Okay.
The good thing is the agency is in charge of making sure that person is responsible, compliant, and replaceable. Sorry to other VAs out there, you are replaceable, but you are replaceable if that person decides to get another job or something else. The VA agency will slide right in and make sure you never feel it, pretty much.
Okay.
Right. So if you could find the right agency, and certainly we could talk about recommendations for that. All those could be covered very easily. There's a great story. I was speaking maybe a year or two ago with a woman who was in charge of, I didn't even know these things existed, by the way. The marketing during the Super Bowl for social media.
Yes.
And what they did was they set up 2 hot sites, one in the US and one overseas simultaneously.
Okay. Okay.
And they had like 500 different tweets and posts out ready before the event even started. I'm talking about, Number 5 just scored a touchdown. Number 6 just scored a touchdown. Number 7 just scored a touchdown. And they had 25 seconds from the minute it happened to when that post had to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And they had an entire team overseas on standby just in case something happened to the US team.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Right? Because you only have one shot to do this live.
One shot.
And somebody who does live events and conferences, you understand, like there's
I do. That's
do
it.
Not have a second chance. You do not have a second chance, right? And they basically had a team on standby the entire time, and they were ready to tweet and they were working simultaneously. Thank you to technology nowadays with following the live stream. But you couldn't imagine paying that cost today with 2 teams. We're talking about top marketing execs from various companies, like a Budweiser sponsoring it for bazillion dollars. You cannot miss that tweet. You have an obligation to get that out within 25 seconds to promote that sponsor paying all this money, right? So they made sure all of that was covered, right?
Okay.
And that's just one example. I mean, and we're talking about that's like the top of the level of like marketing stuff, right? Like all that kind of things. But you're able to pull it off now because you can do that.
You can afford,
right.
You can afford to bring on.
And you talk about the geographies change. You may have what's one of the reasons the U.S. team might not happen? A blackout, a hurricane, a tornado, God knows what. You have the hot site somewhere else. Now the chances of 2 tornadoes happening at 2 hot sites simultaneously is kind of unlikely. So you have that kind of protection on both sides. For the events business, I have a large events side of what I do in my own business. One of the things we do is we make sure that we have a team 24/7 live as a trade show or conference is happening that we're covering. Okay. Right. So just one of the things we do is we have journalists attend trade shows across the country and they interview guests. My team in the Philippines with a 12-hour time zone difference, sometimes 9 if we're in Vegas, is receiving recordings and transcribing on the fly as these shows are happening.
Got it.
I would love to say that I could afford to just have somebody here standing by 24/7.
That's
while 300 interviews are coming in. That ain't happening, right? That's just too much work, too much time, too much effort. But we could pull that off nowadays because of overseas things. So that kind of stuff I think is really cool. But like I said, I think there's a lot of work you can get done. Hopefully I convinced you a little bit to take a look in the Philippines a little deeper.
You have definitely. Yeah, you've definitely done that. And I'm even thinking about our other business, which is like an Amazon-based business and just, helping us to source the right products and things like that. You got my wheels spinning now.
I got you.
I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper.
Good. Awesome. Listen, if I can give one person to take a look a little deeper, I'm happy. Well, listen, Tya, thank you so much for your time. This has been really fun.
Thank you.
I think we could definitely help each other out here and really find some synergies in what you're doing. I think this was, from my VAs who are listeners on this podcast, we're talking about one of the OG VAs, right? We're talking about somebody who is doing your job, which is going to put some pressure on some VAs. Like, what can
my expectations are up here now. Okay. So I don't mind paying people, but I'm going to expect excellence because you're a representation of my brand. I know what we can put out.
Listen, as a Filipino American, I have faith my people can support you and we can reach those goals. I'm with you.
All right.
So, but I love it. I love this fact that you got somebody basically going full circle from a VA 20 years ago.
Yes.
Starting her own business. Congratulations on just being successful, writing it all out, and kind of going back. You know what? I maybe need some more virtual workers. Why not? So, Tya, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this.
We'll talk soon. Our guests are going to love this. This is Paulo Santos, another episode of the Offshore Diaries. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We'll see you again soon.